Before you shoot with the Canon R6V, you'll want to change these settings first. They'll improve how the camera operates, give you more control, and help you capture the best quality footage out of this camera. So grab your Canon R6V and follow along. We're going to start by making sure our camera is set to video mode, and then we're going to set the mode dial to M for manual, and then we can finally turn it on. Let's start with some of the lesser known settings in the wrench menu. So we hit the menu and we'll go to this wrench icon here, which is the yellow menu, and we'll start on page 1. The first thing we want to change here is the record function card and folder selection. Here, I make sure that photo and video aren't recorded on separate cards. I find that to be unnecessary. So instead, what I like to do is have photos record to multiple. That way I have the redundant recording. But for video, I personally really like setting this to main on the first card and proxy on the SD card. This is especially helpful if you're shooting RAW on this camera because the RAW video files are a lot harder to edit on your computer. And so having these proxy files that you can edit from makes that editing experience so much faster. And then finally, when you need to color grade, you still have the full resolution media that you can use. But personally, I like having this on no matter what mode I'm shooting in. I find having the proxy files, even though my M1 Max can handle the HEVC files very well, the proxies are just a lot smoother, and if I can have a smoother editing experience, I like to have it. Otherwise, you can leave this in standard, or if you want to record to multiple cards, you can set that to this as well. Just know that you may limit some of the recording options you have in this mode. Next, let's go to page 3. And this one's also optional, but I like to disable the beep. I don't really like the camera making noises and telling me that it's recording or taking a photo, for example. So I turn this off, but if you really want to hear that sort of thing, you can enable it. Next, let's go to page 4. And the thing I want to bring your attention to here is screen brightness. By default, I think you're at 3 or 4, but I like setting this to the max, especially if you're shooting outdoors, because you want to be able to see the screen as vividly as possible. However, you do not want to judge exposure based on the brightness of your LCD screen. You'll be using other tools like false color, zebras, and waveform to judge exposure. Now we'll head on to page 5, and here we'll go to the cooling fan settings. When the fan is set to auto, it will only kick on when the camera is recording. If you set this to on, then the fan will be on at all times, whether it's recording or on standby. So what you need to know here is it's going to depend on your scenario. If you're in really hot temperatures, like a hot summer day and you're shooting outdoors, I would likely set this to fan on and either rotation speed to medium or high. Just know that when you set the fan to high, you are going to pick up that noise on your on-camera microphone. But I found that there has been no issue with medium. It's quiet enough, but powerful enough to keep the sensor cool. Otherwise, if you're in room temperature environments or even in cold environments, I would set the fan to auto, and then I would set the rotation speed to medium or even low. Next, let's go back and head to power saving. Here, I disable screen dimmer, I disable screen off, and I disable auto power off. Personally, I don't like when the screen suddenly dims on me. I don't want it to go off at any random time. And if I have my camera on, I'm usually using it, and so I don't want it to accidentally turn off on its own. The auto power off only happens when the camera's not recording. So if you're recording a presentation, if you have auto power off set to, say, 10 minutes, it's not like the camera's gonna shut off in 10 minutes. It's only if the camera's on and there's nothing happening, whether it's recording or being operated. So personal preference, I think 10 minutes is fine, but I just leave it at disabled. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Next, let's head to the customized control menu. It is this green menu here. You'll want to spend some time customizing the buttons and the control dials on your camera. And this is where you'll do that. Let's start with buttons. In this menu, you can change your camera-specific hotkeys and your video-specific hotkeys. I won't go into great detail now. I'll make a dedicated video on my personal setup, but I will recommend that you hotkey false color to one of the buttons on the camera. For me, I set it to number 3. The false color is the gradient icon with the sun in the corner there. Next, I like to change my control ring to actually do something. So here, I go to the bottom menu here where it's the control ring, which is the ring on the lens, and I set it to Kelvin. That way, when I adjust the control ring, I'm adjusting the white balance, and that's just a very quick and easy way for me to do it. But of course, feel free to customize these to how you like to operate your camera. Let's move on to the orange camera menu here, and we'll actually go to page 3. Here, you'll just want to change release shutter without lens to enabled. This will allow you to use manual focusing lenses on this camera. With this disabled, the camera prevents you from hitting record or even taking photos because it thinks that there is no lens on the camera body. But when you have a manual focus lens, you do have a lens, it's just not able to communicate with the camera to indicate that it's on. So make sure you enable this. Next, I like to change retract lens on power off to off. When this is disabled, this just means that wherever your lens was last focused on before you turned off the camera, that's where it's going to stay. Normally, when you have this enabled, if you turn off the camera resets the focus to the default position on the lens. So I just set this to disable so that doesn't happen. Now let's get into the red camera menu. And for the purposes of this video, page 1 will be how you select the different frame rates, resolutions that you'll be shooting in. And so we'll skip it and actually head to page 2. Here, we want to make sure sound recording is set to on, of course. And as for audio format, I make sure that both the CF Express card and the SD card are set to LPCM 24-bit at 4 channel. This gives you the highest quality audio possible out of this camera. Most cameras record at 16-bit audio. This one has 24-bit, so you get a little more dynamic range and quality. And the reason you want it to match the proxy file as well is because then Premiere Pro can easily link those proxies. And here's another optional one. You go to audio settings here, and in the built-in microphone, I set this to manual. And then I just mute it. I put it at 0. The reason I do this is because I never use the internal audio of the camera. It's always pretty bad in my opinion. And so I'm going to use the external mic that I connect to this camera pretty much at all times. But of course, if you want to have that safety scratch audio recording internally, you can keep this on. Next, we'll go to page 3. And here we're going to set video AV 1/8 stop increments, and we're going to hit enable. What this allows you to do is when you're shooting on a Canon RF lens, you can do micro adjustments to your aperture. Normally, aperture adjustments are done in a 1/3 stop. When you have this enabled, you have an 1/8 stop. So when we go to the live view here, you can see that when I go up here in the aperture, it's going up by 1/8 instead of 1/3 stops. And so this just gives a much finer control and is really great for adjusting exposure on the fly without it being too choppy. Next, we'll go to page 4, and we can finally set this camera to capture the best log profile that Canon has, C-Log2. To do that, we're going to select color mode, and we're going to select this third option that shows the CP icon, which means custom picture, and then we're going to hit info to customize it. Here we'll select CP file, and we're going to make sure to select Canon Log 2. If you want to learn more about customizing C-Log2, how to expose it, and color grade it, you can check out my full guide on that here. But for now, you'll have C-Log2 enabled, and now we can go back, and the next thing we want to do is enable Live View Assist. So we'll head to page 8 here, and we'll see HDR C-Log View Assist. We'll go inside and we'll see we have the LCD and HDMI options. For the LCD, I set this to on BT709 during CP. This just means that on the LCD screen, you're not going to see a log image. Instead, they're going to apply Canon's BT709 LUT over it so you can see more accurately what the final image is going to look like. This makes judging exposure much better, and I think it helps with the filmmaking experience so you're not having to stare at a log image the whole time. If you're shooting on an external monitor, you can enable the HDMI option here as well. Now let's head to page 10 here, and we're going to change auto power off temp from standard to high. This will allow the camera to run longer without shutting down before it overheats. So normally if you have it on standard, it hits a certain threshold and the camera will shut off. This one increases that threshold, allowing you to shoot longer. You'll see you'll get a warning here that tells you that the back of the camera can get really hot with this setting enabled. So that's something to be aware of, but it's never been an issue for me. Next, I like to change standby low resolution to off. This just means that when the camera is not recording, the image you see on the back LCD will be a lower resolution than normal. This doesn't change the final video recording, just how it looks on the back of the camera when you're not recording. I find that to be a bit annoying, and so instead of having it jump from low res to full res, I just make sure it's on full res all the time. The last setting I'm going to show you in this video is in the wireless communication here, the purple menu, and it is on page 3, and it's airplane mode. I set this to on. When this is disabled, your camera is constantly sending out a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signal, which drains the battery faster. 99% of the time, I'm not using the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, so having the battery be drained when I'm not using it is a complete waste. And so I turn airplane mode on so that it turns off both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Of course, if you're going to use a wireless remote or you do need these Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capabilities to connect to your smartphone, you'll disable airplane mode and use them. But outside of that circumstance, save yourself some battery and enable airplane mode. So there you have it. Those are all the settings I changed on the Canon R6V when I first got it. I'll be doing a full menu breakdown for the Canon R6V, but this should be a good jump start for you to get started and take full advantage of all the features of this camera. If you have any questions or if I didn't explain something very well, leave it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer. If you'd like to learn more about the Canon R6V and how to shoot C-Log 2, check out my tutorial here. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate every single one of you who do, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.